What's up, guys? Welcome to August 22nd as we dive into Ezekiel chapter 22, verses 17 to 22. The Lord's refining furnace. Then this message came to me from the Lord: Son of man, the people of Israel are the worthless slag that remains after silver is smelted. They are the dross that is left over, a useless mixture of copper, tin, iron, and lead. So tell them, this is what the sovereign Lord says: because you are all worthless slag, I will bring you to my crucible in Jerusalem, just as silver, copper, iron, lead, and tin are melted down in a furnace. I will melt you down to the heat of my fury. I will gather you together and blow the fire of my anger upon you, and you will melt like silver in furious heat. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have poured out my fury on you. The sins of Israel's leaders. Again, a message came to me from the Lord: Son of man, give the people of Israel this message. In the day of my indignation, you will be like a polluted land, a land without rain. Your princes plot conspiracies, just as lions stalk their prey. They devour innocent people, seizing treasures and extorting wealth. They make many widows in the land. Your priests have violated my instructions and defiled my holy things. They make no distinction between what is holy and what is not, and they do not teach my people the difference between what is ceremonially clean and unclean. They disregard my Sabbath days, so that I am dishonored among them. Your leaders are like wolves who tear apart their victims. They actually destroy people's lives for money, and your prophets cover up for them by announcing false visions and making lying predictions. They say, my message is the sovereign Lord, when the Lord hasn't spoken a single word to them. Even common people oppress the people, rob the needy, and deprive foreigners of justice. I look for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. I search for someone to stand in the gap in the wall, so I wouldn't have to destroy the land. But I found no one. So now I will pour out my fury on them, consuming them with the fire of my anger. I will heap on their heads the full penalty for all their sins. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Chapter 23. The adultery of two sisters. This message came to me from the Lord: Son of man, once there are two sisters who were daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt. Even as young girls, they allowed men to fondle their breasts. The older girl was named Aholah, and her sister was Aholabah. I married them, and they bore me sons and daughters. I am speaking of Samaria and Jerusalem, for Aholah is Samaria, and Aholabah is Jerusalem. Then Aholah lusted after other lovers instead of me, and she gave her love to the Assyrian officers. They were all attractive young men, captains and commanders, dressed in handsome blue charioteers, driving their horses. And so she prostituted herself with the most desirable men of Assyria, worshipping their idols and defiling herself. For when she left Egypt, she did not leave her spirit of prostitution behind. She was still as lewd as in her youth, when the Egyptians slept with her, fondled with her breast, and used her as a prostitute. And so I handed her over to her Assyrian lovers, whom she desired so much. They stripped her, took away her children as their slaves, and then killed her. After she received her punishment, her reputation was known to every woman in the land. Yet even though Aholabah saw what had happened to Aholah, her sister, she followed right in her footsteps, and she was even more depraved, abandoning herself to lust and prostitution. She fawned over all the Assyrian officers, those captains and commanders in handsome uniforms, those charioteers, driving the horses, all of them attractive young men. I saw the way she was going, defiling herself just like her old older sister. Then she carried her prostitution even further. She fell in love with pictures that were painted on the wall, pictures of Babylonian military officers outfitted in striking red uniforms, handsome belts encircled with a waist and flowing turbans crowned their heads. They were dressed like chariot officers from the land of Babylonia. When she saw these paintings, she longed to give herself to them. So she sent messengers to Babylonia to invite them to come to her. So they came and committed adultery with her, defiling her in the bed of love. After being defiled, however, she rejected them in disgust. In the same way, I became disgusted with Aholah and rejected her just as I rejected her sister, because she flaunted herself before them and gave herself to satisfy their lust. Yet she turned to even greater prostitution, remembering her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. In her she lusted after lovers with genitals as large as a donkey's and emissions like those of a horse. And so, Aholabah, you relived your former days as a young girl in Egypt, when you first allowed her your breast to be fondled. The Lord's judgment of Aholabah. Therefore, Aholabah, this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will send your lovers against you from every direction. Those very nations from which you turned away in disgust. For the Babylonians will come with all the Chaldeans from Pakan and Shua and Kua, and all the Assyrians will come with them, handsome young captains, commanders, chariot command officers, and other high-ranking officers, and all riding their horses. They will all come against you from the north with chariots, wagons, and a great army prepared for attack. They will take up positions on every side, surrounding you with men armed with shields and helmets, and I will hand you over to them for punishment, so they can deal with you as they please. I will turn my jealous anger against you, and they will deal harshly with you. They will cut off your nose and ears, and any survivors will then be slaughtered by the sword. Your children will be taken away as captives, and everything that is left will be burned. They will strip you of your beautiful clothes and jewels. In this way, I will put a stop to the lewdness, and prostitution you brought from Egypt. You will never again cast longing eyes on those things and fondly remember your time in Egypt. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will surely hand you over to your enemies, to those you loathe, those you reject. They will treat you with hatred and rob you of all you own, leaving you stark naked. The shame of your prostitution will be exposed to all the world. You brought all this on yourself by prostituting yourself to other nations, defiling yourself with all their idols. Because you have followed in your sister's footsteps, I will force you to drink the same cup of terror she drank. Yes, this is what the sovereign Lord says: you will drink from your sister's cup of terror, a cup that is large and deep. It is filled to the brim with scorn and derision. Drunkenness and anguish will fill you, for your cup is filled to the brim with distress and desolation. The same cup your sister Samaria drank. You will drink that cup of terror to the very bottom. Then you will smash it to pieces and beat your breast in anguish. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken in anger. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. And because you have forgotten me and turned your back on me, this is what the sovereign Lord says: you must bear the consequences of all your lewdness and prostitution. The Lord's judgment on both sisters. Then the Lord said to me: Son of man, you must accuse Aholah and Aholabah of all their detestable sins. They have committed both adultery and murder: adultery by worshiping idols, and murder for burning as sacrifices the children they were bore to me. Furthermore, they have defiled my temple and violated my Sabbath day on the very day that they sacrificed their children to their idols. They boldly came into my temple to worship. They came in and defiled my house. Your sisters sent messengers to distant lands to get them. Then when they arrived, you bathed yourself, painted your eyelashes, and put on your finest jewels for them. You sat with them on a beautifully embroidered couch and put your incense and my special oil on the table that was spread before you. From your room came the sound of many men carousing. They were lustful men and drunken from the wilderness, who put bracelets on your wrists and beautiful crowns on your heads. Then I said, if they really want to have sex with old worn-out prostitutes like those, let them. And that is what they did. They had sex with Aholah and Aholibah, these shameless prostitutes. But righteous people will judge these sister cities for what they really are, adulterers and murderers. Now this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Bring an army against them and hand them over to be terrorized and plundered. For their enemies will stone them and kill them with swords. They will butcher their sons and daughters and burn their homes. In this way I will put an end to lewdness and idolatry in the land, and my judgment will be a warning to all women not to follow your wicked example. You will be fully repaid for all your prostitution, your worship of idols. Yes, you will suffer the full penalty. Then you will know that I am the Sovereign Lord. 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 20 to chapter 25 verse 2. 588 BC, the siege of Jerusalem. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 3b-5. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. Jeremiah chapter 39. In January of the 9th year of King Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came with his entire army to besiege Jerusalem. Ezekiel chapter 24. The sign of the cooking pot. On January 15th, during the 9th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, write down today's date, because of this very day the king of Babylon is beginning his attack against Jerusalem. Then give these rebels an illustration with this message from the Lord. Put a pot on the fire and pour in some water. Fill it with choice pieces of meat, the rump and the shoulder, and all the most tender cuts. Use only the best sheep from the flock and heap fuel on the fire beneath the pot. Bring the pot to a boil and cook the bones along with the meat. Now this is what the Sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murderers. She is a cooking pot whose corruption can be cleaned out. Take the meat out in random order, for no piece is better than others. For the blood of her murderers is splashed on the rocks. It isn't even spilled on the ground where the dust could cover it. So I will splash her blood on a rock for all to see, an expression of my anger and vengeance against her. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murders. I myself will pile up the fuel beneath her, yes, heap the wood Let the fire roar in to make the pot boil. Cook the meat with many spices and afterward burn the bones. Now set the empty pot on the coals, heat it red hot. Burn away the filth and corruption, but it's hopeless. The corruption can't be cleaned out, so throw it into the fire. Your impurity is your lewdness, and the corruption of your idolatry. I tried to cleanse you, but you refused, so you will remain in your filth until my fury against you will be satisfied. I, the Lord, have spoken. The time has come, and I won't hold back. I will change my mind, and I will have no pity on you. You will be judged on the basis of all your wicked actions, says the sovereign Lord. And so that's the end for today. Not a good thing. When it talks about Jerusalem, like when the blood is like spilled all over, that it could have gone. God saying how like the blood is like splattered all over the place, like on the rocks, where it is even spilled on the ground, where the dust could cover it. That's verse 7 of chapter 24. It's an illustration of showing how prideful the people of Jerusalem were when it comes to committing these sins, when it comes to committing murders. And the thing is like, and then like early on before that, it says like fill it with choice pieces of meat that it says that take out the meat in random order, for no piece is better than others. You see, like people in Jerusalem, they committed all these crimes, they commit all these sins where like they're not ashamed. They're not ashamed of what they're doing. And so God is like, he can't take this anymore. So every sin that he sees, he just sees them as equal. He doesn't really care what kind of sins there are. If there are something that's against him, that's sinful, he will punish them based off of that. And the fact that like they don't even try to hide it, which shows a lot of pride. It's like a sense of like glorifying their sins. You know, in our modern time, we have ways to glorify our sins, especially through the internet. We post things, we post people fighting each other, we post people having sexual talks about having like immoral sexual relations with another person. You know, like these things, like when you glorify your sins, it shows a lack of spiritual maturity. It shows that you have no lack of fear of the Father. And that is really a dangerous game to play. It's like you have to be so prideful to be able to do that without any shame and guilt. And even when God does try to condemn your heart is too hardened for him to condemn. Your heart is too hardened where you can't feel it, where you wouldn't want to change. And so that's a problem within itself. It's like, how do you expect God to change you if you don't want him to change you, right? And even when God has given you signs, try to convict your heart, you still don't want to do it. That's a sign that we need to change our hearts. And so yeah, that's one of the things that it's talking about. And then Ebola, the adultery of two sisters. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I think these days, like, people having sex with each other is not out of love, but out of lust. And it really talks about lust and how, like, not just men who are being lustful. These two sisters were lustful as well. So they were willing to sell their soul to the devil. They're willing to sell their body. They sold their body to men so they could have sex with them. You know, like our world right now is so sexualized. You could think of a lot of celebrities right now who dress in very provocative, very perverted ways, showing a lot of skins for no reasons. There is no theme to their concert or whatever. I don't care. It's like, but when you show so much of your skin, you're asking for people to fall in lust, especially men. you especially asking men to fall into lust with you. And this was what frustrates me a little bit. It's like, yes, I understand that men at the end of the day decides and choose to act out of the lust, right? And what feel lustful, but you're not helping like ladies right now. If you're one of those ladies that just thinks you can dress however way you want to dress and not expect any men to fall into lust with you, you are not very wise for thinking like that. These women are doing what they are on purpose. They are dressing in ways that they know will draw men's attention to them. You know, like, even if you're not trying to draw people's attention, even if you're not trying to draw men's attention, it doesn't matter, because like men's heart and mind, they're natural to fall into sin. They're natural to tempt to fall into lust. And understand, again, like I said, it's like men at the end of the day, it's their choice to fall into lust, but you're not helping by dressing the way that you dress. You're not helping by just covering your breasts and your private part, and everything else is being unshown. You're not helping them. You're not helping men who really struggles with lust to not fall into lust, if that makes sense. And so now, men, if we struggle with these things, if we struggle with lust, and which I think many men do, then you need to stop going to whatever places, nightclubs, beaches. I don't know. I don't care where, but you need to know that you need to know in your heart where are places where you will see women dress in ways that are gonna tempt you to fall into lust, and you need to step away from this kinds of environment. And that could be beaches and phones. Phones is a big issue, as we will dive into a whole lot her lust of pictures, of portraits, painted pictures. That is literally talking about pornography. Men fall into lust with pornography, and that's why it makes it so much more sinister, because pornography is not real. They're trying to fantasize you, and I struggle with this before. It's like they try to make you think that's how sex works, but that's not how sex works. Most of the things that's being shown in a pornography industry is not even. I don't think it's unrealistic. Like, the bodies are not real. The way they define sex things, all of these things, all the details within it are fake. And so when you fall into pornography, your mind chemistry is like, oh, is this what sex is like? Is this what being in a relationship looks like? It's like, no, it's not. And even if, for me, it's like, even looking at it is disgusting to me. And so realizing it's like this woman did even worse by falling into lust with pictures, but then realizing that our modern time is easier to find inappropriate pictures on the internet. It's so much faster to find those things than to actually go to Spencer, to any places where to buy magazines, because there's no need to buy magazines of women in swimsuits if you could just look it up on your technology. That's why it's so important to protect your technology from these things. And I think not only is God speaking metaphor, literally sense, but I think he also is talking metaphorically, how we expose ourselves. We expose too much of our lives to people when we don't need to. And so when we expose too much of our lives to people could come in and conquer and seize control of our weaknesses, control of the parts that we struggle in, and lead us away from him. You see, we have to be responsible for our own actions. We have to be responsible of what to share, what to post, what to say to people, so that you're not causing yourself to stumble away from God. So you're not causing yourself to walk away from God, and you're not giving people in your life, you're not giving people the opportunity to help you to walk away from God. Like what these women did, they dressed, they did whatever they can, not knowing that they were going to walk away from God, but they also led a lot of men away from God as well. So I hope what I shared is helpful. That I hope that you're not like women. I hope that you're not feeling disrespected. I just trying to speak from the perspective of men who used to struggle with lust. Is like it would be nice, I guess, like whenever you go to like a beach or something, be a little more sensitive, or like go to anywhere, like be sensitive with the way you dress. If you don't want to be lusted after, but if you want attention, if you want men to lust after you, I guess, then go ahead. You're just leading yourself away from God, but you're also leading men. You're pulling men away from God as well. And so I hope what I shared is helpful, and like just something. I hope we could all just reflect on things. So may you guys go and walk with God today.